What's up, everybody? We are back for another episode of Eat When You Can, Sleep When You Can, and Don't Fuck With the Pancreas. I'm your host, Dr. Fairchild, here with my co-host, Dr. Buttress. And Dr. Buttress, what's today?
Today is match day, or really the beginning of match week, because it's Monday, meaning that today is the day they got the email saying you did or didn't match.
That's right. And for all of you out there, all you listeners, for the med students, congratulations. It's an exciting day. Soak it in. I know our third years at the hospital today, we're kind of celebrating our fourth years, and we're going to have some opportunity this week at UT Chattanooga here at Erlanger to really celebrate the fourth years. But today they received the email to find out, yes, I matched, no, I didn't match, and they'll find out later this week where they're going. So congratulations to all of you applicants out there, all of you fourth years. I hope we see some of you here in Chattanooga. We will see some of you here in Chattanooga. I can't wait to find out who it'll be very shortly here. Me and you are actually gearing up for some things too, but for all of you out there who have not heard of the match, for the listeners who don't know what the match is, we have an episode that we have released earlier here in the series of DFW the Pancreas, and you can check it out. It's titled The Match, and it'll kind of briefly explain exactly what that is and what that looks like for all the fourth-year med students out there who are now gearing up to get ready for residency. While they're getting ready, some things we're doing at UT Chattanooga. One of the purposes of this podcast is to kind of give you insight into the weeklies and the dailies of surgery residency. And me and both Dr. Buttress have now switched over rotations. It's the early on in a new month. I am now on vascular surgery. He is actually doing ICU, so we've kind of flip-flopped. I've been on ICU for a few months, and now I've kind of come off of that, and now he's getting the rails and the reins of the TI and the SI and the NTI and dealing with those patients. And believe it or not, I actually have a lot of vascular patients in there too that I'm getting to see each day. So
yeah, you've been visiting. It's practically like you've been on the ICU month, because every morning you're coming through. You're the senior on vascular, and so typically the seniors see the ICU patients. That's just kind of the step-up approach to learning how to take care of patients that way and learning how to deal with those more complex patients. And so, yeah, it feels like you've been, swinging through pretty often. But as you said, ICU, new month, earlier mornings, later days, a little bit more stressful. But it's all part of the game. You go from one month to the next, a little bit lighter, a little bit heavier. But this month's already been off to kind of a wild start. I came in pretty pumped because my list was at like 8 people on day one.
Which I did not see for the entirety of 2 months.
No.
I saw 8 people each day because the list lived over 18 or 20 or 21. I never actually saw the list get under 16. I think was the lowest I ever watched it get over those 2 months. So
it's such a crapshoot.
It's amazing the difference in what that month can look like.
And how quickly it can change, because we had a night, there's one night in particular I want to talk about from this past week. So that night I was at dinner with some of the new medical students that one of our faculty hosted, and it was great. And I remember specifically, I was like, I left work, we had 10 patients on the list. I was like, this is great. There's 3 people on the team. We get to see like 3 apiece. These are pretty chill mornings. And then I checked back in like 3 hours after I'd left work. I left work at 5. I checked back in at 8 while we're at dinner. There's 25 people on the list. And I immediately text.
I was at dinner with you.
I immediately text the guy on call. I was like, dude, what are you doing?
Well, that quickly changed your dinner plans.
It did.
Because instead of now having one more drink and staying out for another 30, 45 minutes, went home. But speaking of that dinner, let's talk about some of the things in this last week and a half that's happened at UT Chattanooga. For all the listeners out there, I know some of my family have reached out and really wanted to get more of that weekly, surgery life and what it looks like and kind of what we do on the day-to-day. And we touch base a lot of it in all these episodes, but, kind of getting back to the real core. That night, we were actually treating the third-year students to dinner.
Yep. So it's
one of our tennings was actually that showed up late.
Right. That was goofy in itself. Is that we had been there for like an hour and a half before he actually showed his face, which was hilarious. But yeah, it's something that we like to do when there's a new rotation of medical students that are starting their surgery rotation, is to just bring them out to dinner, get to know some of them, kind of show them what Chattanooga is about, show them that we have a life outside the hospital. We have faculty that are willing to kind of treat us to these dinners and really be part of our lives. And it really plays into that family aspect that I think all programs are striving for, and Chattanooga truly lives up to. And I think if I had that when I was in my medical school experience, where we had really been embraced as part of the family when starting that surgery rotation, it would have been just a huge highlight for me.
No, I mean, I will say it's a reoccurring theme, like we always talk about at Chattanooga, this theme of camaraderie, and it's real. It exists. And something really neat about that night actually is that night was put on by an intern who kind of worked up with one of our tendings to kind of, he's very interested in trying to treat all people involved in the residency and the med students. He's very appreciative of everything we do for him, and the help that we provide. So this is one of the ways he can kind of pay it forward and pay it back to us. Is just something as simple as a dinner. And so we've had a couple with him already, and the new students arrived this month. We got 8 students, I believe, this month.
Yeah, big group.
Big group of students here with us at UT, and so he treated us to a night out. An intern arranged it all, and we actually had a showing, I think, from almost every class, I believe, probably except a couple seniors. But I mean, we had a chief there, we had a couple upper level juniors, we had interns, all the third year. So a really good showing, and then an attending obviously that came by to just hang out and just fellowship and just do things that aren't medicine. And also spouses and significant others were invited, and it's not like it's just closed off to us only. So I mean, that day I essentially went to work all day, did a regular 12, 13-hour day, left the hospital at 5 o'clock, drove straight home, essentially showered. I cut my hair actually and just kind of shaved and cleaned up, and then hopped right back in the car to go right back downtown. We were actually in one car. We were getting a car worked on, so I had to pick up my fiance from the hospital anyway, so she rode over with me and came eat at 7 in her scrubs, and we hung out till 9:30 that night, and then came home and had a new day the next day. But just a fun time. But
And it was funny, so during that night, it was a great night. We all had a lot of fun, but there was a part of the night that really kind of demonstrates just what this job can do to you, even when you're not at work. So we were, I think, drink number 2, having a great time, and I got a call from the critical care fellow who she and I had been dealing with a really sick patient all day. It was a consult we'd gotten, and we were just trying to resuscitate him and get him back to a decent place clinically, and had been really struggling with it all day. He ended up needing to go back to the operating room, and I had left work early, or not early, but before he was really out of the OR. And so obviously I was caring a lot about how he was going to do, and so I got a call from her in the middle of that dinner, informing me that he hadn't made it, that he'd had a poor outcome, and it kind of stopped me in my tracks. I was having a great night, and just getting that news, and it's like, I already left work, and yet I'm still being affected by stuff that's happening there, because you're such a part of that, and it's so ingrained into who you are that it can really change your mood really quickly. And so, not to bring the mood down of this conversation, but it's just amazing how quickly something that simple can really get to you.
It's the reality of what we do, and for those of you that may have not listened to this episode, I advise you to tune into episode 12, where we talk about the emotional tolls of the job, and really just an unfiltered look at truly what we do each day, and some of the things, just the difference in a few minutes can make, where you're taking care of someone that dies, then you have to go get lunch, and then you have to go give bad news to a family, and how all those things can affect you. And like you said, just as simple, we're enjoying a night, we're finally away from work for a couple hours, and you find out the patient you've been working on for the last day and a half, didn't survive. And that is part of the emotional toll of the job, and we kind of have an episode of it. And for those of you listening that are interested in surgery, be prepared. In the surgery world, that emotional toll is going to be significantly larger, because we are operating on very sick people, and sometimes you have a lot of people that aren't going to survive, operations and things, and after operations, and you're going to feel some form of responsibility in that sense, and learning to deal with those things. But it is real. But on to a lighter topic. So today, match day. Everybody found, or at least beginning of match week, everybody found out yes or no, I didn't match through an email, and they're getting ready for the soap. But what me and you actually, during match day, we're actually preparing for these new residents literally as we speak. We actually just now, before this podcast started, we're studying up on some ATLS things, because me and you are both going to be course directors, or student directors for the ATLS this upcoming session this year. And essentially, our program appoints residents to kind of take in the new incoming residents and walk them through the ATLS course, which is a 2-day course right before you start residency. And me and you are instructors along with a few other people. So we were actually both just had the PowerPoints pulled up and the USB drives kind of clicking through that, because tomorrow we have a full day from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. where we're going to be doing the instructor course, and they're going to essentially walk us through, ways to be a better instructor, and how to kind of make sure that we're walking through the incoming residents appropriately. And, so we're preparing. You're finding out you matched here today, or you'll find out, I guess, in the week you found out you matched today. And here we are on the other end, as residents, also spending our days preparing to take in this new group of interns.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool now that we're on the other side of things, that when we were here, I can't believe it's been 2 years, which is crazy. 2 years ago, we were matching. We were in the same boat. Now that we're on the other side of that, we're so excited to find out who is going to be coming. The program releases the names of people that are coming to our program on Friday, I think usually. And I know our program does a great job. Last year I reached out to them immediately and we're like, welcome to the program. We're so excited to have you. And so it's kind of the opposite side of the anxiety. It's not a case of, oh, are we going to match 5 people? Because we know we are. It's more of like, who did they get? Did we get the best ones? And so that's kind of an exciting piece. But as you said, we're preparing to do this ATLS course, which I think is pretty cool that they have the residents do that. They're kind of getting hands-on with the new interns early on, teaching them some of the hands-on stuff they're going to have to deal with when they're on their trauma rotation. It's a nice little refresher for us because you don't do trauma rotation specifically you do them as an intern, and then you're the trauma chief 4th year, right. And in between that, you don't have any trauma rotations
officially, formally.
Yeah, even though you're in the unit, you come downstairs.
When we're in the unit, we always you can tell when something good's coming in, and
you're just trolling the pager.
Yeah, and speaking of, we did this the other night. You're in the unit now. Me and you were actually both on call this weekend, so we're coming off of a call weekend. And we were both on Friday, Sunday, which is, we've talked about this before in the past, but our program does Friday, Sunday call and Saturday call. So you split, 2 residents will split a few different services, and you'll be the person for Friday night, and then Saturday morning the other person comes in. Y'all split those lists. You check out, you go home, you sleep. You come back Sunday, do the same thing. They go home and sleep, and then Monday the whole team comes in, and the Sunday person's post call, and that was me and you. So we were on Friday, Sunday, which is a danger to Erlanger to have me and you there together.
Yeah,
not to the patients and not to the hospital.
No.
Dangerous because we are goofballs, and we find ways to make residency as fun as we can all the time. I feel like if you ever pass by the call door and me and you were in there at 8:00 at night on a Friday, there's no telling what noises we're going to be making and sounds and songs we're going to be singing.
Yeah, we're like drumming on the table, making stupid TikToks and dumb shit. Yeah, it's all
things to just try to lighten the mood some and make things fun. And I feel like we kind of bring that that energy to everyone, and the people know it, and it just makes it fun. But we got to Friday night. I wasn't even in the ICU. I have vascular patients there, so I was taking care of them. But I also was covering the AB, not peds, thankfully, but the AB pagers that night. And they had a few patients in the ICU. So I was already up there just seeing people, just making sure they were okay. That was some of my sickest people. And you were up there and ended up having to do a couple procedures and things. And I immediately was at the bedside to just help you, navigate this chest tube. And we tried to figure that out together. And then we had an active shooter threat. And
yep, that was wild. And we won't go too much into detail because I know some of that's it's supposed to be on the hush hush, I guess. But it wasn't like a real active shooter. It just went out as that because a shooting. An accidental shooting had occurred
around the hospital,
right by the hospital. Right. And so I was down there randomly. I wasn't even supposed to be on trauma.
You were going to find out about the chest tube.
Yeah, I was going to ask my attending about how we could deal with this kind of issue we were running into. And just so happens, as I walk into the emergency department, this guy gets wheeled around in a wheelchair. He was screaming about his leg. I was like, "What is going on?" It was like 10 security guards running.
And so your first move is to call me and to tell me that it's real, and then I had to relay it to all the ICUs. Yeah. Which at this point in time, the TICU had already left the unit. They were like, "Oh, it's active shooter. We're gone."
Yeah, you had seen the update on your phone saying like active shooter, Baroness campus. So you called, you're like, "That's not real, right? That's a fake thing." I was well, it is real because he just rolled by me.
Yeah. Well, to preface it, this week we were actually doing active shooter drills at the hospital. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, Monday through Thursday we actually had scheduled active shooter drills, and then Friday we get like at the same time we get the page. I was like, "Oh, is the drill?" First thing I did was pull up my email. Are the drills still going on? Yeah. And then 2 minutes later you call me like, "Oh no, it's real."
No,
there's a guy just rolled by. I was like,
well,
but then we found out it wasn't necessarily active shooter on the grounds.
Yeah, kind of a ridiculous story.
Yeah, but the point is, me and you kind of enjoying the ICU, and one of the things of this residency that you can really have a lot of fun with is when you make these connections with all the residents like we do. There's nothing funner than getting to do bedside procedures and even operating together like with your co-residents. It's awesome. Me and you did that night. I was in the ICU for a few hours helping you with just little dumb tasks that I didn't have to be there, but I wanted to be there. It was fun. In between that, we put on the players and watched a little bit of some golf and kind of caught up on that, and just ran around doing different things, taking care of different patients. And some of my vascular people, we consulted critical care on, so we were kind of seeing them together anyway.
And a pretty big case Sunday, pretty big aortic case.
Had a huge aortic case, did a big old retroperitoneal essentially exposure of the aorta, and actually did like a patch repair in 2 different spots from a GSW. So I had a great case. I was in there all day till 5, 6 o'clock at night, and that patient went to the ICU after, so I was up there again, and me and you hanging out again in the ICU and doing some bedside things and helping some respiratory therapists get A-lines. It just kind of, it made the weekend go by quick. It's much better once you're there with like a buddy and a friend that you can just kind of, shoot the shit with and really just enjoy, a little bit of the time where you're not having to actively care for patients. You have some of that other time that you can just kind of, decompress together and laugh and cut up. So that's kind of been what our week has looked like and our weekend. And, now here we come into Monday night on the beginning of match week, and here we are preparing for our new incoming residents already as a whole, as a residency program. And, I think that kind of gives a good segue into number one. I wanted to address this. We've had a lot of people reaching out through the email. We appreciate all these people. Various people like Alan and Jeffrey and Christopher. We've seen your emails. I think I've responded to them. There have been emails that have a couple people that seem very interested in UT Chattanooga and the program, and have kind of asked just things like, what are things they can do to increase their chances. Some of these med students that aren't M4s yet, to increase their chances to come to a program like UT Chattanooga. Just given the operative volume and the case quality and the attendings and the residents, and they're interested in coming here, so we'll address that.
Yeah, and it's a really complex question with a lot of layers. It's like, how do you become a better candidate? I mean, there's so many different areas of your application that need to be strong. Background research, previous work experience, your scores on entry exams, your letters of recommendation, all that stuff feeds into it. But at the end of the day, what we had kind of spoken about before this is I look back to when we had the applicants who had interviewed. They came and had like a dinner with us, and we went out with them. And when we're talking to these people, meeting them, and trying to get to know them as they're applying and looking at Chattanooga, we aren't thinking to ourselves, "Oh, I remember this guy because he had top scores and a bunch of research." I'm thinking to myself, okay, is this a cool person that I want to, get beers with after work and,
For sure.
go golfing with and hang out with? Is this someone who's going to fit in with the fabric of our program and really just mesh with everyone? I don't care what they had going on paper when we're at that dinner, because that's, at the end of the day, it matters less, in my opinion, than, can I trust this person to be on rotation with me, and are we going to work well together? Do I see us getting along well outside of work? Because that's the stuff that affects you every day. I think that's what makes the program unique, is what kind of people we bring in, not necessarily that they have the best scores, and they have great scores because we bring in competitive applicants, but thinking to the stuff that matters to us when we're looking at applicants, that's going to reflect more to me as really important is, are you just a normal, good person?
Yeah. We did kind of briefly touch on this before the episode, just so we could kind of have something that we know to put a finger on. And, I think we both kind of came up with the exact same thing. And that in the sense of, at this point in the game, once you graduate in medical school, you've already set yourself apart from majority of the world as far as educational ability. Probably most of your type A personality, especially if you're considering surgery, we're probably very similar. We're all top of the class, all have all the things and the accolades and all the all of us do. I mean, that's just part of becoming a surgeon. It kind of leads you down that pathway. If that's what you want to do, you kind of have to excel in a lot of things to get there. And so, once you kind of get to that point, I don't think there's a whole lot of those things that necessarily play a whole lot of roles anymore. I think what it then becomes about is the person as a person. And we do want to have an episode where we do bring Dr. Giles, who's our program director, on one day, and I know he'll really like to say some things, but I'm pretty sure he'd probably back me in saying that one of the biggest things we look for in this program is, like you said, it's fit, and it's is this person someone that we all get along with, we want to work with? Is that's the person we're looking for? I mean, I'm looking for the person, and everybody's gonna have their own little things that what that means to them, right? It's gonna mean a little something to everybody, but for me, that's like someone else that's an athlete, that was also a baseball player, that was also, likes to go snowboard and ski, and likes to hunt and fish, likes to, has a dog that they can go walk and stuff, like likes live music, wants to come support me when I play. Like, those people that are interested in doing those things, like that's more of an appealing applicant to me, and we kind of all have that. And so, like, we're trying to find that person that kind of encompasses all the things of our residency program and what, each of our residents kind of look at as appealing to them. And so, I think the best advice is just to honestly just be yourself. Don't try too hard to like find things to, spice up your application more. Like, just tell us who you are and be yourself. And at the end of the day, Giles and them are going to see that. I mean, they're going to see that. Our program's going to see that. We're going to see that as residents. The minute we have you there and we see you, we can quickly pick up on who are the people that are most like us, that's going to fit in the best, because all of y'all have accomplished a lot. Everyone that's gotten to this point has accomplished a million things. And so, wonder what you can do to just strengthen your ability to get into UT Chattanooga. I think number one, like you said, is show an interest here. making sure that we know you're interested. There's nothing wrong with reaching out to programs, letting them know you're interested, letting people like Dr. Giles and Dr. Dart and them know that you're interested in coming here. Reaching out, that's a good first step. Number 2, just be yourself. I mean, just find a way, whatever you want to come to a program that you fit into. So, if you be yourself and you fit into our program, then we want you here, and you're going to probably end up here. So I think that's probably the best advice. But I mean,
and on top of that, also when you're in interviews, and there's some applicants who will sometimes like take command of the entire interview, and they'll ask all the questions, and you can tell that it's almost like they're trying a little too hard. They don't let other people talk, and they're asking so many questions. It's like it's great to have interest in the program, but it's also like it's obvious when you're doing a little bit too much, and it's almost forced, and everyone can see through that, which is unfortunate because I know there's a lot of people who want to come here and they want to show that interest, but sometimes it's like take a step back, just be who would you be normally if this was in person? Like if this was a regular type thing, you don't have to, be so aggressive sometimes in those interview settings, and even in some of those like in-person dinners. Some people can really be just a little too overexcited, and it's obvious when that happens. It's like just be yourself.
Yeah, that's the person we're looking for, and I mean, that's the best advice you can give them is you don't have to try too hard. Just be yourself. You've already accomplished enough. As far as on paper goes, we're all pretty similar. So, we're appreciative of the emails. Man, it means a lot. I think it's awesome to see we have people all across the country that are obviously hearing this podcast and have reached out to us and continue to email us. We're going to start getting into segments now where we're kind of starting to get a little bit deeper into the podcast, and we want to start having some med students come on from across the country at different programs and talk about things they do at their program that may be different, because this is a podcast built by residents for the resident, but it's also for the med student and for the pre-med student. So there's no better way to give more insight to med students and pre-med students than to have other med students and other residents and other even pre-med students from across the country hop on our podcast and, get to talk about things they do there. And it can really start to open up the eyes to all the people that are interested in coming do this profession and do this field as to what it looks like around the country for the pre-med student, the med student, and the resident. So, we're excited, man. Keep shooting us emails, dfwthepancreas@gmail.com. We're going to respond to it. If you're interested in being on the podcast, let us know. If you have something you want to bring to the table, let us know. Me and Dr. Buttress will discuss it, and we'll be more than happy to try to get some of you on here. So
and a couple of new things coming to the podcast that we're excited about. I think the next couple of our releases are going to have some guests from our own program to talk about various aspects of life outside the hospital and get some unique perspectives on things. We're always wanting to bring new guests on just to mix things up. I know. We enjoy meeting new people and hearing their stories and trying to share that with you guys. In addition to that, we're starting a YouTube channel. We're going to start getting some of these episodes filmed. This is actually our first one, which is kind of exciting. We're going to work the kinks out, make sure that it looks good and everything like that. But just to kind of give another aspect of the podcast and give you guys some more content. So be looking forward to that stuff on the horizon as well.
Yeah, most definitely. And, we appreciate all you listeners. Once again, this is still a new podcast. It's still very young. The way that any new podcast, any young podcast gets going is the listener. It's your help. It's going to be all of you out there who have listened, who have liked what you heard so far, share it. We want this to make its way throughout the med schools. We want it to make its way throughout the surgery residencies. We want the pre-med people to start hearing it. We're going for that very niche market. Like that's who we're talking to. That's the people who want to hear it. But we're also excited when people outside of medicine get to hear it. I love when my family are listening to this and my extended friends and stuff, because they're also getting an insight into this that I know they've never heard and they don't know. And it's exciting for other people to hear, short 15 to 30 minute episodes, which is really what we're going for on the ride to and from work. And really give you an insight to what we do. But it's really built for the resident and the pre-med and the med student. And so it's going to take all your help. Continue to share it. Continue to listen. Continue to just spread it to everybody you know. We appreciate it. Continue to send us emails. And tune in next time on
Eat When You Can.
Sleep When You Can.
And don't fuck with the pancreas.